We have the last chapter in Mrs. Piggle Wiggle's farm, and this is called the Can't Find It Cure. Morton, dear, said Mrs. Heatherwick, would you please run upstairs and get me my gold thimble? It's in my work basket, and the work basket is on the little table by the window. Okay, said Morton cheerfully, and he put down his paintbrush right in the middle of painting a picture of a cowboy roping a wild steer. He went up the stairs 2 at a time and was in his mother's bedroom in 4 seconds. As soon as he got inside the room, however, his energy seemed to disappear, and he stood limply, gazing like a puppet up at the ceiling. After he had looked at the ceiling for a little while, he looked out the window. This window has a really good view, Morton said as he gazed over the countryside. He could see Mr. Johnson clipping tent caterpillars off his apple trees. He could see Mrs. Greer setting out her petunias. He could see Jody Jones sitting on his bed but not cleaning up his room. He could see Sharon Rogers doing figure eights on her roller skates on Willow Street. If a person stayed up in this old window long enough, he could learn about everything that's going on in the whole world, said Morton. Then up the stairs floated his mother's voice. Morton, what in the world are you doing? Bring me my thimble. Morton went downstairs. I couldn't find it, Mom. Did you look in my work basket? What work basket? The one on the table by the window. Oh, that one. He said it as if his mother's room was a solid mass of work baskets and he didn't know which one. Now please go get me my thimble. I can't poke this needle through your jeans without it. I have 4 patches to patch on this pair alone and 4 others beside. So Morton went upstairs again. This time his dog, Tag-Along, met him at the top of the stairs, licked his face, and told him very plainly that something was wrong with him. What is it, old boy? What's the trouble? Tag-Along held up his paw, showing Morton that there was a burr between his toes. Oh, you poor old boy. Here, hold still and I'll get it out for you. There, now isn't that better? Tag-Along said it wasn't better, so Morton looked again and saw that he had burrs all over him. Well! Morton went in and got his mother's silver-backed hairbrush and comb. We'll just have to comb all those mean old burrs out of you now, won't we? A half an hour later, Mrs. Heatherwick came to the foot of the stairs and called, Morton, where is my thimble? Oh, that, I couldn't find it, Mom. With a sigh of exasperation, his mother ran upstairs, went into her bedroom, opened her work basket on the little table that was by the window, and saw the gold thimble right there in plain sight. She then went out into the hallway, took Morton by the ear, and led him and showed him exactly where the thimble was. Oh, you mean in that work basket? Son, is that my silver hairbrush you're holding? I guess so. Well, what are you doing with it? I'm just taking the burrs out of old Tag-Along. Brushing a dog with my silver hairbrush? Shrieked his mother. Well, yeah, it's better than mine for burrs because it has stiffer bristles. And I suppose you used my comb too? Well, I tried, but it pulls Tag-Along's fur, and he didn't like that. Morton Heatherwick, you go right out and get me my comb, and don't ever let me, ever as long as I live, find you ever using it again for anything. Morton went out in the hall and called back, I can't find it, Mom. You can't find it? That's ridiculous. You were just using it. But it isn't here. Somebody's taken it. And who would take it? Well, I don't know, but somebody sure did. A cat burglar, maybe. They can come in the house and you can't hear them at all. If a cat burglar came into this house, Tag-Along would have barked. Anyway, What would a cat burglar want with a comb with 2 broken teeth filled with dog hair and burrs? I don't know, Mom, but sometimes those burglars are kind of crazy and they'll take anything. There has been no cat burglar in this house. Mrs. Heatherwick was exasperated. Now, there never has been a cat burglar in this house ever, and there will never be a cat burglar in this house. Now find my comb. Just then, Tagalong got up to go after a fly that was buzzing on the hall window, and there on the floor, where he had been laying, was the comb. Hey, Mom, here's your comb. It was lying right there on the floor under old Tagalong. He handed it to her with a smile. The word is lying. Now, if you want to continue taking burrs out of Tagalong, go down in the basement and get his comb and brush. They're on the shelf above the washtub, right next to his flea powder and the worm medicine. Oh, I know. Come along, Tagalong, old boy. We'll get all the rest of those burrs out of your fur. They ran down the stairs, and his mother could hear Morton clumping down the basement. 2 seconds later, a shout came up from the basement stairs. Hey, Mom! I can't find Tagalong's brush. It isn't on the shelf. It is too, shouted his mother. I saw it yesterday. It's right above the washtubs. So Morton looked on the gardening shelf by the door, and he couldn't find Tagalong's brush and comb, but he did see a can of paint that he had bought the summer before for his bicycle. Hey, that's what I wanted to do today. I want to paint my bike. Hey, Tagalong, old boy, I'm going to paint her red with silver trimmings. Boy, old Benji Franklin will be jealous. His bike's as rusty as a tin can. Come on, Tag, let's wheel that bike over here under the window so we can see what we're doing. At lunchtime, when Morton came upstairs, his mother said, Did you get the burrs off Tagalong? Nah, I couldn't find the brush and comb. But I've been painting my bike and it looks swell. Did you put newspapers on the floor first? No, I'm only painting the top part right now. Have you spilled any paint? A little bit, but I wiped it up, see? And he held up his handkerchief with it looked like he had had a terrible nosebleed. Not your handkerchief! Sure, and I got every drop off the floor, Mom. Oh, goodness. From now on, would you please use an old rag to wipe up the paint, and please spread newspaper on the floor wherever you're painting? There is a bottle of turpentine in the paint cupboard. Put a little bit on this old rag and take the paint off your face, out of your hair, and off your arm. Sure, Mom. I'll do it as soon as I finish this banana. But, of course, by the time Morton finished his banana, he couldn't find the turpentine. Hey, Mom, where'd you say that turpentine is? I looked in the fruit cupboard and it's not there, he yelled from the basement. I didn't say it was in the fruit cupboard. I told you it was in the paint cupboard. It's on the top shelf. Nope, it isn't there, he yelled a few minutes later. But fortunately, Mrs. Heatherwick was up changing her clothes because she was going to go to her ceramics class, and she couldn't even hear him. When she was dressed, she told Morton to go over to Mrs. Beecham's and play with Enterprise while she was gone. Oh, Mom, I don't want to go to the Beecham's. Mrs. Beecham she's so clean, and she makes us look at television through the window, and she won't let Tagalong in on her property. Well, then why don't you ask Enterprise to come over here and you could play croquet? We can't play croquet. I can't find any of the balls. They're in the garage. Oh, no, they aren't, Mom. I looked yesterday. Mrs. Heatherwick said, Well, why don't you and Enterprise make some popcorn then? The electric popper is in the pan cupboard. Oh, that's a swell idea, Mom. I love popcorn. Goodbye and have fun. Mrs. Heatherwick went out to the garage and got in the car. As she backed out, she noticed the croquet balls in a neat row on Mr. Heatherwick's workbench. She sighed and wondered if Morton was going blind. Mrs. Heatherwick usually loved her ceramics class. All her very best friends attended, and they made so many lovely things. Little dishes with roses on them, plates with roses on them, bowls with roses on them, boxes with roses on them, even napkin rings, spoon holders, and matchboxes with roses on them. But today was supposed to be the climax of the whole wonderful course. They were going to learn to make just roses. Great big life-size roses not attached to anything. Not to be used for anything, but to be put around the house in artistic places. On the radio, for instance, or on the telephone table, or on the mantle. Places like that. A real ceramic rose would be beautiful anywhere. Mrs. Heatherwick thought it would be gorgeous on her dresser. She hummed a little tune as she molded her rose and thought. The telephone rang. It was Morton. For her. "Hey, Mom, where's the popcorn?" "Well, it's in the cupboard with the cereals, dear." She went back to her rose, which was beginning to look less and less like a mildewed cabbage. The telephone rang again. It was for Mrs. Heatherwick. Again. "Hey, Mom, I can't find the popcorn. Hey, Mom." "It's right next to the shredded wheat, and besides, sitting next to the sugar pops. You can't miss it." She went back to her rose. The telephone rang yet again. It was Morton. "I can't find the popcorn popper, Mom." "I told you it was in the pan cupboard. It's on the top shelf at the back. Plug it into the outlet on the stove. The popcorn was right where I told you, right?" Morton said, "I couldn't find our popcorn, so Enterprise went home and he got his. Well, bye, Mom." Do you think they're ever going to get any popcorn? Well, that was the last call, and so Mrs. Heatherwick presumed that Morton had found the popper. She put a bright pink glaze on her rose and was very proud of how the little thorns that she had made looked so real. Lou Hopscotch told her it was the prettiest rose in the whole class, and she would bake it in her kiln, and it would be ready to take home and put by her radio on her dresser on Saturday. Mrs. Heatherwick was as happy as a little bee. When she got home, the very first thing she was going to do was to go in the living room and decide where the beautiful rose would look best. But when she got home and went into the living room, she gave a scream and put her hands over her eyes. What appeared to be two black-faced old trappers were crouched over a smoking fire in the fireplace, shaking a greasy skillet. All around them, in every direction, was an inch deep a carpet of greasy, burned popcorn and salt. "What in the world are you doing?" "We're just making popcorn," said the voice of Morton from the face of the blackest trapper. "We couldn't find the electric popper, so we built a fire in the fireplace, and we're doing it the old-fashioned way, Mom." "Take it out of here right now and bring me the vacuum cleaner." "Oh, Mom." "Hey, Morton, I gotta go home." Enterprise jumped up and edged toward the door. "Oh, no, sir. You are staying until this mess is cleaned up." "Well, all right, Mrs. Heatherwick." Enterprise took the hearth broom and started swacking at the popcorn that was all over the hearth, and a piece hit Mrs. Heatherwick right in the eye. "Oh, just go home, and you, Morton, go up to your room. I'll clean this up all by myself. It's just safer."